Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we're going to finish up our summer garden review series with part 3, the pallet garden. Let's get going. So the pallet garden has sort of a special place here on the homestead. When we built this, we actually made one of our very first YouTube videos. I'll put a link up here. It was really raw. I was just starting to learn how to edit and all of that stuff. But the actual pallet garden itself has done phenomenal since then. It's one of the things that got us into raised bed gardening. It also sort of reaffirmed the fact that we wanted to do this YouTube journey. So before we begin, just like all of the other ones, let's go ahead and take a look at the pallet garden during the summer. Now, I did select a video from mid-August, and the reason I did this is I want you to pay special attention to a few things. Pay attention to where the cherry tomatoes, I took this one right after I pruned them, so you kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about. And also take a look at the size of the cayenne peppers at that point of the year. All right, so it looked pretty good at that point, didn't it? Those cherry tomatoes were a little different. So let's take a look at Leslie's greenhouse portion of the video.
Good morning, everybody. We are talking about the pallet garden today. So we'd like to give you a review. My portion is talking about our greenhouses, what they did, how they helped, and just a little bit of updates of what's coming for the future. So join us this morning and we'll give you some good, awesome information. So to talk about our greenhouse and the success we had with this. This thing was amazing. We got this off of Amazon. We wanted something a little bigger so we could start our seeds, help harden them off, get them ready to go into our beds. And this guy was fantastic. I will tell you, when we first got it, we came in and set up a little foundation for it with some topsoil. We put a mat down. We come through, put it together. Neighbors came and helped, so that was super exciting, having extra help putting it together. But it's fairly easy. And then we tied it down, of course. And this thing has been fantastic. It's withstood a lot of wind that we've had. We do get a lot of wind right here in this hill. For some reason, it's just full force when we have high winds. And the cats seem to love it, of course. The one thing I can say about this is it did great with wind. It did great With the chickens, it did great. With anything else except for cats. They were the ones that came through and tore up the screen on it. So, if you're going to get a greenhouse, make sure you kitty-proof it, because if there's any kind of bug in there and they like to chase bugs for some reason, they're going to tear through your screen. It happens. So, but this thing was fantastic and it did really great. We had plenty of shelving for our seeds. As you can tell, I've got most of my planters in here. We have a lot of other planting materials in the barn, but we try to keep everything in one space so we have everything ready to go when we need it. And again, it's done fantastic and it's withstood a lot of weather. Had some frost days, had some snow, which we didn't put it in till after the snow we had last year. So, but it's great. It's one of the best pieces we've added to our gardens, and everything's right here when we need it. So our goal is to use this as our flower starting greenhouse, simply because it's smaller and we don't usually plant a lot of plants at once in here. So that brings us to some new news. So new news is that we were gifted a larger greenhouse. My father, he's a huge fan of our YouTube channel. He's been following my stepmom. You know, they're fantastic people. He had messaged me and let me know there was a package coming. And this space right here is going to be where our new greenhouse is going. It is 8 foot long. It is 6.6 foot tall on height, and then width is 6 foot. So this is going to add a whole nother 4 feet of space, because the old greenhouse is about 4 foot. So it's going to add a lot more space. The panels are actually, I forget what you call it, but they're like that hard plastic material. It's got a panel on the roof that will open up for aeration. The door is a sliding door. It is not screened. It is kitty proof. We are excited. The frame is the aluminum galvanized steel. We'll be able to put it together. We're getting some topsoil brought in so we can create our foundation, make it level, and make sure that we get it installed to where it won't blow around, all that good jazz. And fantastic part is going to create a wind block for our beehive. Super excited about that. So this greenhouse is going to be mainly for our veggies. And the old greenhouse is going to be mainly for our flowers. And my goal next year, I was very lackadaisical last year with flower planting. I got in a funk. I was lazy. I didn't water. A lot of your flower varieties are very sensitive with root systems, so they don't do well with transplanting, but marigolds do. So our goal is to plant a lot of marigolds. We're going to have them positioned in each little raised bed in the corners. That way it attracts the good insects to your garden, takes out the bad, keeps other bad bugs away. It's a natural repellent for those nasty insects that you don't want in your veggies. So we're going to be starting those. I am going to, again, stick with my Burpees brand on my wildflower mixes, my hummingbird mixes. Those are going to go, again, in the bottom of the top garden and our old garden. And that way we bring in the pollinators. That's another goal for the flowers. We want to bring in a lot of pollinators. Of course, we have bees. They stick around, but they also travel in a 5-mile radius, and they get pollen from practically anywhere. So we just want to make sure that we've got enough space for seed starting. So I'm super excited. And in the next few weeks, sorry, Ray is chasing Oscar, her favorite game. He's not a fan. Our next goal is in a few weeks, we're going to be getting our topsoil brought in. We've already contacted the guy. He's going to deliver it. It's going to be a dump truck load full. And we're going to start this project. And then the remaining topsoil we've got is going to be mixed in with our raised beds so we can ensure that we've got plenty of topsoil mixed in for the compost and things like that. So just wanted to kind of give you an update since we're doing our review. Okay. And last but not least, I did want to talk about my roses. These roses have been here for for years. I was nervous because this front one is a pink knockout rose. You can see the original stump. That was the original plant. And one year, a strong wind came in, had a storm, broke off half of it. The rest of it died off because of the damage to that system. However, you can tell new root growth came up, and this thing, it did bloom this year. Super excited. It didn't bloom twice a year like it's supposed to, but all of this is new growth. After it bloomed, a lot of the leaves did fall off, but it came back. This is new growth, and so next year it's going to be in full bloom and probably a lot bigger. I've tried to tame it a little bit to get it out of our walkways. Psh, that's not happening. It's just kind of wild. This was also a piece of an old rose that came back. You can see the new growth at the root system down there. And of course you can tell where I've tried to tame this thing too, because it gets long and wispy. But it also it's a darker pink. The first one is like a light magenta pink knockout rose. This one's a darker, almost red. Beautiful color, huge flowers. It did great. It bloomed this year. So I was super excited, and I'm just kind of letting it go so it can get its growth. And look what we found. I don't know if you can see that little guy. It is an inchworm. Inchworms are fun. And then this little guy was I don't even know. Like, I know Grandma had planted so many roses in this space. We took out the landscaping. We brought in the mulch. Did not realize that there was a rose bush root system under here hiding. And because of the nutrients that the mulch put in, it sprouted and it came up. And so I'm just going to let it go. I think it is also a knockout. I'm not sure what the variety is on it. We'll see once it blooms. Again, not sure where it came from, if it was just an extension onto the root system that spread this way from the original plant. But we'll see what happens. And then this one was originally a yellow knockout. You can tell down here, that's old root system right here. And it didn't make it. It died off. Everything just basically died off. And so I lost the yellow knockout. That was one of Grandma's favorites. I was super sad. But this new growth is another pink knockout. Like, where did this guy come from? Don't know. I'm telling you, she had so many roses in here, and they were just crowded at one point. So I'm thinking it's just from that root system, from her roses that she had. And one year, fun story, the yellow knockout kind of cross-pollinated with one of my pink knockouts, and I had speckled roses. Weird. They were almost white. They were an opaque yellow, but they had pink spots all over the petals, and it was interesting. It was a nice hybrid, so happy accidents. But just wanted to kind of give you guys an update since we're doing our review of the Pallet Garden, and let you know what we were doing with the old greenhouse, how it fared for the last year, what was successful, what can we do better with it, and our exciting new news about our new greenhouse. So appreciate you guys, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate that, Leslie. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and just kind of go through all of the different beds and sort of discuss how they did, what we grew, and that sort of thing like we did the rest of the videos. We'll also give each of them a grade. Let's go take a look. Look at all these chickens down here. They follow us just in case there's any food that we need to give to them. So they think that's kind of what we're here for. I guess actually, now that I think about it, we kind of are. So we'll start here. Now in the summer portion you saw in the video, this is where we had the corn in this bed and the far bed over there. Now in the video you can tell the stalks were kind of small. They hadn't really started taking off yet. And the reason for that was we didn't actually plant the corn until the end of July. So in that video we were about 2 weeks into August. The reason for that was these beds we grew our spring carrots in, and amazingly enough we didn't have to pull our spring carrots until the beginning of July. So we did leave them in there, we pulled them all, we ate them, they were delicious. So we got that, and we got corn. So let's talk about the corn for a minute. I'm not sure that we will grow corn going forward. The reason for it is there was a bunch of corn that came on in here, but because you can see over here, our property is we have hundreds of acres behind us that lead down to the river. We also have cattle pastures all around us, and we have a lot of wild animals. I do trap them to keep them away from the chickens, but inevitably every year that we've tried, we've gotten raccoons that will come in right whenever our corn is done and just eat everything. So it's pretty disappointing. The corn itself was awesome. I mean, we only got one cob that we got to eat out of all of that. It was delicious. The plants look great, but I'm a little frustrated by the fact that the raccoons got it. If I had to judge these beds for the summer though, I'm gonna go ahead and give them an A, because we got an insane amount of carrots out of them, and we also got a lot of corn. We just didn't get to eat it. So the next two beds that we'll discuss, we're gonna discuss the two behind us. We're gonna do the melon beds and the pepper beds all kind of together. So let's take a look at those. So as you can see here, it's mid-September, and melons do not do well in mid-September. We've had a few nights that were in the 50s. The days are shorter. So this type of vegetable does not care much for that type of weather. So you can see now it's dying off. Oh, look at that. We got some actual grass in there. But anyway, this bed we grew 3 cantaloupe and 1 watermelon plant in this bed. And we got a boat ton of cantaloupes. Now, next year what we're going to do is, since we're not doing corn, this bed here will be for watermelons, and that bed over there will be for cantaloupe. So we're going to separate them out. And that is due to a lesson that we learned this year. And that lesson was, don't grow them together. They need their own space. So that's fine. We did get a couple watermelons, and we, like I said, we got a boat ton of cantaloupe. So going forward, we want to make sure that we have enough space for both of them, because we enjoy both the melons through the summertime, especially when it's really hot. And another thing that's advantageous to growing melons are the rinds, and that sort of things are very, very healthy for our chickens. So it works out all the way around. So if I'm grading this melon bed by itself, I'm going to go ahead and give it a B. And the reason for the B isn't because of the seeds or the plants, it's because of user error. I simply put too much in them. So what I've learned is I'll put 3 cantaloupe in one bed next year, and I'll put 3 watermelons, and make sure that they all have their own separate space and can run out, and we'll see how that works. So let's move on to the pepper bed. And this guy right here has been nothing but awesome. There was a time when I was complaining about our bell peppers, because we were getting way more banana peppers than bell peppers. And from a ratio standpoint, we still are. I mean, we are getting significantly more banana peppers than bell peppers. But I do want to say the bell peppers have picked up significantly once the weather kind of turned off normal again. Even though we were watering and given 2.5 inches a week during the time of the drought and all the heat this summer, the bell peppers just weren't producing the same way as the banana peppers were. But now that everything is kind of leveled out a little bit, these bell peppers have started going crazy. So since the last week of August, we're pulling anywhere from 8 to 14 bell peppers once a week. You know, and they'll come out fist sized, to where if you'd like to stuff them or do any of that sort of creative things with your bell peppers, you can. We also, anybody who watches the channel knows that we have grown these banana peppers. These banana peppers started putting off, and I think it was like probably early July is when we started getting the first rounds of banana peppers. They were delicious, and ever since then, we've had to pick them weekly. We have given buckets of them away. We've made gallons and gallons of pickled peppers. We fermented some peppers. I actually used some of these sweet peppers in some hot sauce as like a way to balance them, because Leslie and I don't really care for super spicy, but because we had all those cayenne peppers to use, I did want to make some fermented hot sauce. And it kind of seems one of those things where I do like hot sauce, I just don't like it hot, and for whatever reason, it seems really popular these days to make hot sauces that, you know, for people like me can't even eat. So I thought maybe I'd take it into my own hands and see if I can't make something that's more palatable for folks like me. But with all of that being said, as far as if I had to grade this pepper bed, I'm gonna give it an A++. Ray is rolling around in excitement apparently, but it gets an A++. I don't think that we could have wished for a better outcome on this bed. So from now on, what we'll probably do is, because the peppers did so well and because we eat them, peppers are something that we can, especially the sweet peppers, the banana peppers, the bell peppers, those things are easy to give away. A lot of people like them. So going forward, what we'll more than likely do is the bell peppers will have their own bed here in the Pallet garden, and the banana peppers will also have their own bed. And for the last bit of our review series, we are going to review the Cayenne Pepper Bed and the Cherry Tomato Bed. So let's go take a look. So we'll start here with our Cayenne peppers. Now, in the summertime, this bed actually grew a lot of kale, Swiss chard, and our cayenne peppers. As you saw in the videos, the cayenne peppers, when we took that video, which was beginning of August, these plants weren't near this size. They were significantly smaller. Like many of the plants in our garden, they had sort of shrunk back because of the drought and the extreme heat of the summer. And then once, you know, early August hit and we started getting rain and reasonable temperatures, everything sort of exploded. But first off, if you just want to, I'll step back so you can kind of look at the size of these plants now. So keep in mind, again, it's middle of September going towards the end. And just so you know, Sunday, so, you know, again, you'll be watching this on Thursday. So the Sunday before this, Leslie went through and picked a 5-gallon bucket and half of another one and took off all the cayenne peppers that she could find. A couple days later, we came outside and it looked like this. You can see the stupid amount of flowers that are all over this thing. And if we get in here, there are baby cayennes just hanging everywhere. So we pulled them, and now there's going to be at least as many that we're going to have to pull again by the end of the month. And I say that because we have been picking cayenne peppers since early in the summertime. Even when the plants were small, they were still loaded with cayenne peppers. And now, again, it's just kind of gotten a little out of control with how many there are. The problem with the cayenne peppers that we found is not a lot of people want to take cayenne peppers. And now I know we never do because we don't like, you know, hot things. So we do not eat a whole lot of cayenne peppers. We grew these by request from a family member because they wanted them for salsa. But they only used, you know, like a minute part of what actually comes off of these cayenne peppers to make the salsa. So we'll go over here and I'll show you. Down in this little, you can see in here, there's like a gap there, and that's where the kale was growing. And the kale, we ate kale from spring all the way up until August, whenever this thing exploded and took over this bed. I'm gonna see it, make sure we can get you a view of this in here. And down there is what's left of our Swiss chard, which also produced fantastic this year from the spring all the way up through the summer. And it's still growing, just not as well since it's being shaded out by these monster cayenne pepper plants. So let's talk about grading on this guy. It gets an A+, this entire bed does, because we ate kale. We were eating salads almost all summer. Again, towards the end of August when the plant exploded, the cayennes, it shaded out the kale and the Swiss chard. But besides that, we ate a salad every day out of this bed from the end of April all the way through the middle of August. So that is fantastic from our standpoint. The other thing is that the cayenne peppers produce significantly more than what we wanted. And we actually found somebody that enjoys buckets and buckets of cayenne peppers to make either hot sauce or salsas, but they'll use them, which makes me feel better about growing them. I don't like anything going to waste if I can avoid that. So I'm gonna give this bed an A. I would give it an A+. The only reason I'm giving it an A is because we didn't eat a lot of the peppers, you know, and we're giving them away instead, but this was fantastic. Moving forward, we have learned from our mistake, and we will have the kale and the chard in its own bed, so that regardless of, you know, the way, the temperament of the summer, they'll be able to grow and flourish through the whole thing. We won't have to worry about the, you know, the issue of the cayenne pepper shading them out like we did this year. The other thing is that since we know that we get so many cayenne peppers, what we're probably going to do going forward is plant 3 cayenne pepper plants instead of 6, and then we will supplement the rest of the bed with some mild jalapenos. And the mild jalapenos, number 1, they'll be easier to get rid of. Number 2, Leslie and I, as I mentioned, you know, just shortly ago, are kind of trying to make our own hot sauce that is more palatable for people like us that don't enjoy super hot foods. And I believe that those hot jalapenos, or I'm sorry, the mild jalapenos will be a great compromise in that endeavor. So again, the pepper bed gets an A. And the last bed that I wanted to discuss this year is our cherry tomatoes. And again, I asked you to pay special attention to this in the video. You know, it was nothing but stem. There was, you know, you could see a lot of the flowers, and now the flowers we were originally looking at, looking like this. I think actually that cluster down there, the one that's almost done, is the one we showed in the video. And it's already almost finished putting off its tomatoes. We are picking every day. We are picking ripe cherry tomatoes. You can see in there that we'll get not as many as we were during the full height, but we'll get a decent sized amount, enough for us to eat them daily. You know, we'll put them on gnocchi or any pasta, any of that sort of stuff. So, and this is Melindra, our friendly garden spider. She keeps the grasshoppers and such out of the cherry tomato. She's been in here for a while. She's very docile towards humans, but she is crazy aggressive towards grasshoppers. Those are her favorites. So if I find any grasshoppers in the cherry tomatoes while I'm picking, I always just chunk them into her web. She seems to appreciate it. All right, look at that. The thing is going forward, whenever I do my trim, I like to leave some of the branches around to help shade the inside, because it helps with moisture retention, right? The thing that I didn't think about is chickens love tomatoes. So what they do every day is they come out here, and as these things are turning red, they're not quite red enough to take off the vine, but they're red enough for the chickens. And you'll see them up here jumping up and eating stuff out of the cherry tomatoes. So that's interesting. So I think we'll start by rating this bed. The cherry tomatoes get an A+. We have cherry tomatoes frozen. We've eaten cherry tomatoes almost every day for months now. We've given away large amounts of cherry tomatoes. I'm not sure that I could be happier. In fact, I just want to point out that this specific cherry tomato is called a Sweet Million, and this is what we'll be growing from now on. We've grown several different varieties of cherry tomato. This is by far the most prolific, and it has a fantastic taste to it. So we have decided that we'll probably relocate the cherry tomatoes next year, and I think we're going to put in this bed here, I think we're going to grow eggplant next year. And I think what we're going to do is down in the old garden, we're going to, on one of the trellises, we're going to do the cherry tomatoes, and I just want to see how tall I can get them, see if we can get them, you know, 22 foot or so. But anyway, that's going to be our plan for next year. And once again, the cherry tomatoes receive an A+. As always, I want to say thank you to everyone who's made it here to the end of the video. If you have not, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does help us out a lot. Also, if you could hit the little thumbs up button, it allows our content to get recommended to other folks. So we sure appreciate that. Until next time, I hope that all you folks take care of yourselves. Peace.